Hello, ladies and gents, it's Hagbard Celine here on another beautiful afternoon, and today we're going to be watching a video by a group called ASAP Thought. They have almost 1 million subscribers, and as of me recording this video has about 150,000 views. The title is self-explanatory: Being a Woman. And I'm absolutely certain that they're going to give us a very, very unique perspective on the difficulties facing the modern woman, and indeed how unique those difficulties are. Before we jump in, I would like to say that this video was originally covered by my squid-faced friend Omegon, and if you get a chance to check his channel out, I will leave a link in the description. Without further ado, let's watch.
Hi, I am Rachel.
Well, hello Rachel, my name's Hagbard, and it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance today, and I hope to get to know you better before—
My name is Sel.
My name's Chelsea.
Okay, so that was, real quick, that was Sel, and I assume that's short for Selena, and Chelsea. Alright, but you know this introduction might be unnecessary as you do have your names at the bottom of the screen.
Hi, my name is Jess.
Oh, okay, sliding one more in there at the end, Jess. So that's four. That's four people in a video. That I've noticed on YouTube that women behave like they do when going to the bathroom. They go in groups.
I can think of a couple situations where people have been surprised that I'm intelligent.
Okay, purely a technical note, I do find it interesting that the makers of this video thought it was pertinent to have the introduction despite the names at the bottom, but didn't feel it was necessary to have at least one reading of the question. Just put that at the bottom. That seemed like a good decision to make, but okay. I understand that sometimes you're unnecessarily offended at the fact that people are surprised that you're intelligent. Just an FYI, people are generally surprised anyone other than themselves is intelligent. People are generally somewhat egomaniacs.
And it's supposed to be a compliment, but it isn't.
That really seems to depend. I would take it as a compliment regardless, because it's not as though you surprised them by being intelligent as a woman, unless that's the statement that you're implying here. That people have regularly come up to you and been like, wow, you're awfully smart for a girl. I mean, is that what you're implying is occurring to you on a fairly regular basis? Or are people surprised you're intelligent because being obese is associated with being dull? I'm not trying to be mean here, or was that a low blow, but is that what you're implying? I'm not certain because you've not made an actual statement.
It's assumed that I don't know what I know, despite knowing.
Ma'am, if this is your normal form of communication, I can see why.
So I like to shoot and edit and like technology, and I find that in a lot of kind of situations with predominantly men, like a lot of men talk down to you or are very condescending. It stops you from actually being able to ask questions. That means I won't learn. So it's kind of like everybody loses in that situation.
First and foremost, my dear, being someone who likes technology doesn't inherently make one proficient at its use. Simply saying that you like to shoot and edit things doesn't mean that you're any good at it. It simply means that you enjoy your hobby. Now, if you were to go to a professional and ask him for advice, and he were to give you that advice, and you then read that advice as condescension, you are indeed the only one losing out in that situation. In what manner do you presume that the person who's decided you're not worth teaching is losing out? I for one don't see how that's even possible in this particular situation.
If a woman spoke out something that was intelligent in a group discussion, she could be seen as someone who sees herself as above others. I've seen this with a few different girls, and I think it's always made me shy away from opposing male opinions in class, especially.
Yes, because I can assure you, dear, that being an intellectual male always gets one tons of play in the average social interaction. I'll tell you right now, man. You know who's successful with the women? You know who's real hot with the ladies? Computer programmers, astrophysicists, marine biologists, not the cool ones that work with fucking Flipper. No, the ones that actually go out and do marine biology, the ones that do the science. Do you think that being intelligent is valued at all in our society, aside from those that provide us with luxuries? Have you considered that's the larger problem? That in general, people are shamed for being more intelligent or for being intelligent at all? That's the actual problem in society. Not that women are shamed for being intelligent and working against men. No, people are shamed for being too intelligent or for seeming to show off. That's normal. We have a term for it when they're a male. They're usually just called, nerd, Poindexter, geek, those kind of things, you see, that exists already on the other spectrum. But I'm sure it's so much worse when it happens to the ladies.
Women have great opinions. It's strange that we're taught not to give our opinions.
This video appears to consist of 72% vocal fry and 28% woe is me horseshit. And as far as I'm concerned, the young lady in the sweatshirt is providing 95% of all of that.
I think women feel like they have to protect themselves, and the easiest way to do that is to not speak as much.
And this is somehow a uniquely female problem, or is it that only people listen to women when they complain about it? I'm just curious. What do you think it is?
To kind of go with the flow, so you're not making any changes to your social group or your workplace, even if they really could be beneficial for everyone.
Let's really review what she's saying there. She's saying that what people, not just women, but what people in general are taught not to do is to just insist that people in their workplace or their social group do things the way that they see that they should be done. Because of course, as a young woman, the way that they see it being done would be beneficial to everyone. It would help everything if you would just do it the way I'm telling you to.
I 100% have been thought of as aggressive. I think there's like ideas about what women should act like, and it's really frustrating because it's like all those things are very passive descriptions of femininity, which is irritating. So it's like you're always just gonna be aggressive. If you say like, hey, can you pass me that, instead of being like, excuse me, like if you have 5 spare moments, can you pass me that salt shaker? Like, I don't have time for that.
Ma'am, do you have laryngitis, or is that just your speaking voice every day? Because I found it impossible to focus on what you were saying until the end, where I had to question whether you were a fucking time traveler.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Most times that I ever act assertive or organized, I'm told that I'm aggressive.
Ma'am, I'd just like to say that you seem to have the ability to be about as aggressive as fucking Daria on Valium. So I'm gonna pass on assuming that you actually are telling a real story here, and not just saying what you think or, frankly, know that these people want you to say.
I was really excited to work this job.
Oh, good. Excellent. The job story. This is really the portion of the program that I think is most entertaining. Any of the young men watching this, or frankly anybody with 2 brain cells capable of rubbing together, imagine that you came into a place of business and behaved the way that this young lady is going to describe that she behaved upon her being hired at this location. And just think, would I last if I behaved that way? Would my grand male privilege protect me in this situation? Because I have a feeling that no.
I was shadowing a male coworker who had been there for a few years.
The fact that he was a male is completely irrelevant except in your head, where his identity was that important to the way that you treated him, which may have had some effect on the result in the situation, dear.
And he really did not like the idea of me pitching ideas. He probably saw it as stepping on his toes, and I was actually fired after a few weeks because you were meant to be being trained. You were shadowing a senior employee, and you apparently spent at least significant enough portions of your time to draw the ire of your fellow employees and your boss, attempting to tell the person who was trying to train you how to do their job. I cannot possibly imagine a world where I thought I was that person, that I was gonna come into this job and change how everything was done from day one, because I'm a lady and my perspective is that important. Do your fucking job. I was too aggressive to the male employees.
And I will say that if that is the wording that was used on your termination sheet, then indeed you were. And assuming that you behaved the way that you implied you did, I would have fired your ass way earlier than that. They gave you weeks to get your shit together, and you couldn't figure out that you weren't doing your job. You weren't actually filling the role that you were hired to fill. You thought you were there to change the world, which is one of the major problems with hiring these kind of people.
Am I talking over people? Should I be listening? Am I being too aggressive? Am I being too bossy? And it's something I worry about being.
Well, luckily, that's not something a male employee or boss has ever had to consider. They don't regularly face potential lawsuits from folks like you if they behave that way, but do go on and continue complaining about your very unique situation, ladies.
My mom is a really strong and wonderful woman, and who has definitely been called aggressive and bossy in a negative tone. And she's someone I admire and want to emulate, but that one part sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's not attractive.
You are correct. Being annoying, insistent, and pushy is indeed not attractive to anyone. For the record, the way you speak about your mother makes me assume that Dad was no longer around. I have to assume why that would be.
I think that's my tactic, is to dispel situations through being nice.
So your tactic, as you say, is not being overtly confrontational and being a kind human being. You consider this a tactic, do you? Excellent.
It is beneficial in one's life to be polite.
The fact that this appears to be a revelation or some sort of novel concept to you people is disturbing on so many levels.
Do you know what I mean? To be kind to others, to treat everyone with respect, but those are like human things, and they're not related to gender. The issue is why I'm expected to do it all of the time.
It amazes me that we have reached a level of comfort in the Western world where simply asking people to behave with a modicum of decency when they're in public, just simply asking for people for basic standards of behavior, is being seen as oppressive. And somehow, despite the fact that moments ago she said it was just a human thing, she thinks it applies strictly to women in the West. Because there is no standard archetype or characters that are asshole males. There's never been a history of men being called dicks or assholes. Just women. Just women being told that they have to be polite. Men have never been told they have to be polite.
In my experience, it's the men in my life that I feel like I have to tiptoe around more. When I have something that I want to bring up, it's like, how can I bring this up to them in a gentle way, even with family, that's not going to hurt their feelings or emasculate them.
The irony of 4 women spending an 8-minute-long video crying about basic social pressures that are applied to all human beings, and then one of them saying that they have to tiptoe around people of the opposite gender because they're afraid of hurting their feelings, is not lost on me. The irony of the situation being that you think it's absurd that people have to tiptoe around these ridiculous, fragile male feelings, but if someone says something mean to you, it's misogyny. It's men hating women or self-hating women hating on other women. That's not a form of your own weakness or anything. This is a societal issue.
No matter what, if you are speaking your opinion in a concise way as a female, even if you have a straight face, I find that you do have to sprinkle it with a smile, or else people are gonna call you a bitch.
From the stories that you've told within this video, I'm just gonna assume you're usually being a bitch. It appears that you're usually being a bitch. So it's not that society's all ganged up on you. You're the woman with 8 ex-husbands and they were all dicks. It might be you.
You know what? Why do women always have to be so on guard? And why do we have to go through all this emotional tumult all the time and walk on eggshells just so that we can live okay?
I don't know, dear. Why are women so emotionally fragile that the standards that the rest of society are expected to meet feel like oppression to you? Because that's what this sounds like. You're just complaining about basic things and saying it's because I'm a lady.
I was in biology, so biology is often, and ecology has a large female representation, which is great, but by the time you're in grad school, it's definitely more men.
We're just gonna breeze on right by that, huh? But I'm gonna guess that you're the type to complain about the wage gap as well.
I was working with one peer, and I had been working on my project for a year, and he was new, and before even seeing what I was doing was like, oh, I'll show you how this works.
Yes, I see your adorable face of outrage, but was he right? That's the question.
All of my male peers have always been taken more seriously. When in a lot of ways, I don't think that they read as much as the women that I know. And I think that they frankly spew a lot more bullshit than a lot of the women I know. And they get away with it.
Wow, the lack of self-awareness in this moment is phenomenal. Really, well and truly, one of the most amazingly unself-reflective moments a human has ever had in front of a camera. Also, when it comes to reading, 50 Shades of Grey and fucking Harry Potter don't count. The Maze Runner is not heavy reading, you know.
And it's just bred through confidence. So walking into a room, talking about their opinions, getting a good job, getting in with the right people. I notice a lot of smart women who aren't offered the same things.
That's very interesting because by your own phrasing and verb use, the men went out and got the things. And you're saying women aren't offered the same things. Do you see how the behavior factors in there, or nah?
There isn't this like overlord who's like, you are a woman, 70 cents on the dollar. You know what I mean? It's more the way that we're socialized, right? So all the traits that are feminine are docile. So it's hard to ask for a raise or to demand your market value or higher. Like you're always taught to be as low key as possible. And it's kind of frustrating because men are taught that aggression and strength and all these things are positive. It's a circle of behavioral patterns that men are taught, right? And some are to the detriment, but when it comes to money, it absolutely is an advantage.
So, if that's true, and I'm going to absorb and assume that what you're saying is true. I don't think it is, but let's go with that for now. If that's true, who imposed those standards of behavior, those standards of manhood? Who imposed them? Is it men who are telling other men how to be? Or is it men competing for female attention and breeding rights, as they have forever? Because that sounds a lot like what it is. And you see, what it has to do with what women find attractive in men.
Women are equal to men in intelligence and ability, and research supports that.
I always love it when they make one of these statements and then finish it with, well, science says, or, well, research indicates, or what science, what research? Where did this come from? Or did you just read a study in a magazine this one time and decide science says?
It's so hard. When you're a young girl, you walk this fine line of wanting to be attractive, beautiful, you want to be really well liked, you want to be smart but not too smart. It's tough, and intelligence will probably take you farther. That's how all the women CEOs of the world and people who are women that own companies get their power, is really by respect, and it takes a long time of being called a bitch. It's okay to not be liked.
Wow, you mean the key to success is not being concerned about societal judgments on yourself and doing whatever it takes and applying yourself to achieving whatever dream it is that you have? You mean that's what it takes, and not sitting in front of a camera for a YouTube video and complaining about how hard it was to be a woman? How many female CEOs do you think would have partaken in this particular video? My guess, 0. And I've known a few.
I don't think you are beautiful or intelligent. Like, if you want a poppin' body, you can have that if you want to work out.
Excuse me? Did you just shame fat women by saying the only reason that they were fat and didn't have poppin' bodies is because they couldn't work out? Because I'll have you know.
If you want to be a neurosurgeon, you know, Ben Carson already delegitimized that, but if you want to do that for the people, then you should go ahead and do that. You know, whatever the variables in your life that you want, you can have it. And you just have to go ahead and get it.
How is it not amazingly condescending that you feel that it requires these kind of pep talks to get women to accomplish anything? I would assume that any woman worth her salt would be insulted at being told, as though it were some sort of novelty, that they had to work to achieve their dream.
But you don't have to just be one thing.
Women are the mothers of everyone in the world, and I think that's a really cool thing to think about.
Whoa, dude, it's like we're all made up of like energies and wavelengths, and we're all just particles, the same particles that like make the stars and shit, man. Whoa.
Just think about how much better the world could be and can be if more women are at the top running it.
Imagine being this crazy and thinking that what merited the position of power and what would dictate one's effectiveness and ability to maintain and properly mete out that position of power would be their gender, would be the fact that, of course, if we had more women rulers, the world would be a better place. This is logical thinking and not the mind of a madman at all. I believe we have only to look at the track record of female rulers to conclude that they're pretty much the same as male rulers, on average.
Everyone should be a feminist. It's not a bad word. Women really do make everything better.
Well, thank you, Kmart version of Emma Watson. We all needed your approval and permission to call ourselves feminists. Without knowing that it had your approval as not on the naughty list of words, perhaps I would have been foolish enough to consider myself something of a human rights advocate or egalitarian of sorts, or any of these other phrases that means treat people equally, instead of, oh, I don't know, as was classed by the last two statements, just let more women be rulers and the world would be a better place. Because that makes a whole lot of sense. If you're a completely ideologically obsessed madman/bigot, then it's perfect. It's nothing like the statement that if only black people were in power, then of course we'd live in a raceless utopia, or if only white men were in power, the world could continue to progress forward. Do you see how these statements sound? But, of course, when you say women would be in power, it's entirely different, and it's not based on some sort of bizarre belief that women were inherently somehow morally more pure than men. But that's it for me, ladies and gents. This was one of those fun videos I do essentially to unwind, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. Know that there are a couple long reads coming up, so block out your schedule for that. As usual, thanks for getting through this with me. Stay safe, good luck, and goodbye.